Bien, bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous de midi. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mercredi 20 avril. Nous n'avons pas d'annonce particulière à vous faire aujourd'hui et donc nous pouvons passer directement à vos questions. Y a-t-il des questions pour nous aujourd'hui? Lukáš, you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Łukasz Rosiński, Polish Press Agency. Yesterday, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki was in Lviv, and on the press conference, he called the European Commission to immediately launch the Solidarity Fund for Ukraine and mobilize new European funds. So, I would like to know whether you have any comment to it.
Sorry, I'm looking. I'm not aware of these comments, to be honest, with you, so we will need to check and come back to you on this. But I think, as you know, we have already said here many, many times in the press room, and the President has repeated on many occasions the different types of support that we are providing to Ukraine, and, as a matter of fact, as well to member states. When it comes to responding to the Russian aggression in the country. So I think that it is not so much the case of us having to announce anything new at this stage as it is of ensuring the proper implementation of everything that is already underway. Are there other questions for us today on the situation in Ukraine? So I have a couple of hands that are raised. We will only be taking questions on Ukraine for the moment. Odile, you have the floor.
Bonjour. Le secrétaire général de l'ONU, Antonio Guterres, a suggéré une trêve de 4 jours correspondant à la Pâque orthodoxe dans le cadre du dialogue interreligieux. Est-ce que la Commission va faire une déclaration également dans ce sens pour essayer de contribuer à ramener la paix dans cette région?
Merci beaucoup. Je passe la parole à Peter.
Merci Odile. Bonjour. Oui, bien sûr, nous soutenons l'appel du secrétaire général des Nations Unies. Et nous, comme l'Union européenne, aussi répétons notre appel à la cessation des hostilités, de toutes les opérations militaires et de l'agression russe. C'est pas seulement pour les Pâques, c'est pour l'éternité, je dirais, donc, parce que nous considérons la campagne, l'agression de la Russie être illégale sans aucune raison. Donc, il doit arrêter maintenant et pour toujours. Donc, nous soutenons l'appel du secrétaire général Guterres et nous aussi répétons notre appel à la Russie d'arrêter les hostilités.
Thank you, Peter. Weiwa.
Efforts by EU to engage more, diplomatic and political efforts, like what Austrian Chancellor did a week ago. I don't know, is the EU encouraging more such efforts, or because the talk now seems to be that, everything needs to be decided on the battlefield. So could you clarify, is there any more diplomatic efforts by the European Commission or European Union side?
Peter.
Thank you. The support and engagement of the European Union in order to bring the illegal Russian aggression to an end is focused on several venues. One of them is support to Ukraine, financial, economic, political support, including supporting the ability of the Ukrainian armed forces to defend the country and the people from being slaughtered by the murderous Russian machinery. The second venue is political engagement that continues with our international partners, bilaterally, multilaterally, at the UN or in individual bilateral contacts. When the EU leaders or the representatives of the EU member states are traveling or having contacts with their counterparts from third countries. So that's another venue. And of course, our appeals on Russia to stop this illegal aggression is another venue. So we are working on multiple levels, and the notion of the decisions being taken in the battlefield is just illustration of what is going on right now, because Russia is not showing any signs of serious engagement and willingness to heed to the international appeals, including from the UN and the member states of the UN, to stop this illegal aggression. So, of course, there is a situation at the battlefield where the Ukrainian armed forces are defending their country and their people, but there is also a lot of activities that are going on the political and diplomatic level, as I said, both bilaterally and at the multilateral fora.
Thank you. Tommaso.
Hi, thank you for the floor. This is on Ukraine, but it's not for Peter. Should I ask my question now or later?
Look, you ask your question, we'll see. Tommaso, you've cut yourself off. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Can you confirm that yesterday, during the phone call with President Biden, President of the Commission von der Leyen was open to the idea to introduce a price cap on gas coming from Russia? Thank you.
Tommaso, we are not commenting on the contents of the conversation that took place yesterday during the video conference, further than what the President said in her tweet following this meeting. What is clear is that the President has said that we are working on further sanctions, including in the field of energy, and more specifically, she has mentioned oil as an area on which we are working when it comes to sanctions. Bernardo. We can't hear you. You need to change your mic source, probably. Okay, whilst you try to solve the issue, we will go back to Lukáš, who has another question, and then we'll come back to you, Bernardo. Lukáš, you had another question? No? Okay. Yes? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, President Charles Michel is today in Kiev, so I was wondering whether this visit was consulted with the President von der Leyen and High Representative, and whether there were any special message from President von der Leyen, from Mr. Boller to Charles Michel to address in Kiev. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, as you know, the President of the Commission and the President of your European Council are in very regular contact, and I'm very confident, of course, that the President of the Commission was informed of the visit to Kiev. As you know, the President herself was in Kiev only very recently, and therefore passed on the messages that she had directly to the Ukrainian side. I don't know, as for the HRVP, if you want to add anything, Peter.
Thank you. The same goes for HRVP, who is in regular contact with the President of the European Council.
Bernardo, we come back to you. Still not working. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Sorry.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry for that. Okay, I've got two questions for you today. One is about the state of play with the implementation of the current sanctions. So do you have any assessment about the progression of the implementation by the member states, especially the fifth round? Do you see kind of some discrepancy in the way that the member states are implementing the sanctions? And the second question is about the G20. The US seems to take the approach of boycotting the meetings when people from Russia are present. Do you think to follow the same route or not? Thank you.
Peter.
Well, on the state of play of implementation of the sanctions are being implemented by member states, and the sanctions by the moment of adoption become a legally binding measure that member states have to implement and obey. So it's not that there would be problems and difficulties with member states not implementing the sanctions. And when you are talking about the effects of the sanctions, of course, then you need to see a certain amount of time until the measures are being bringing some effects and some results. So at this stage, I wouldn't go into details about the implementation, which, as the legal framework foresees, is effective immediately after the adoption, and the member states are obliged to implement the sanctions by themselves. And on the second thing, on the G20, I'm not really sure to which specific initiative to refer, but the approach of the European Union is always that in multilateral fora that we continue to advocate for engagement when it makes sense and when it can bring the necessary results. And when it comes to specific events, it's usually always up to the member states to decide the common approach to a specific event, to a specific participation at the specific venue.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes, just to follow up on Bernardo's question a little bit on the sanctions. This was raised last week, I think, and Dana addressed it, but only in a very broad way. About the system, the idea that countries would pay in euros to Gazprom and that'd be converted to rubles, as to whether or not it's a legal, that it's acceptable for the Commission, whether or not it's seen as bypassing, circumventing the sanctions. Do you have any more clarity on that, please?
No, listen, we have nothing to add to what Dana said yesterday. As you know, we have been analyzing the situation, and we are in contact with member states on this, but we have nothing that we can add today here from the podium. Right. Maria, you have the floor.
For the floor. Actually, the follow-up on Lauren's question is about a non-paper that today is published on Καθημερινή. According to Καθημερινή, at least a non-paper sent to member states from the Commission's legal service is addressed to Gazprom's customers and refers to Gazprom's new payment mechanism for the supply of gas to European companies. First of all, could you confirm this document? And if I get it right, Russia imposes a special mechanism which, according to the non-paper, may violate the sanctions. So, which is the Commission's opinion to the companies in the different member states in order to pay back Gazprom? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, but I cannot go into further detail. As you know, we have been and we are analyzing the decree, and we are in contact, obviously, with member states on this. Contacts are ongoing, so at this stage, we can make no further comment. Any other questions for us today on Ukraine? No. On other issues, on other international issues first. Nawab.
Thank you, Eric. Peter, the violence between Palestinians and Israelis is continuing, in the Al-Aqsa. I have seen your statements on this, I think 2 days ago. Is there anything new? Are you in touch with the two sides and with the regional players to find ways to defuse the situation? Thank you.
Yeah, please, Peter.
Okay, it's on. Thank you, Nawab. Of course, we are following the situation and the upsurge in violence with grave concern, because this is something that is being repeated time and time again, and the European Union is engaged with the partners both on the Israeli side, on the Palestinian side, and also with international partners in order to find ways how to prevent these flare-ups of violence. And we have seen that there was an upsurge in violence not only at Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, but also in other places in West Bank. And day before yesterday, we've seen also exchanges of rockets and missiles between the Gaza Strip and the Israeli army. So this is yet another reason for us to continue with our appeals and calls on everyone to exercise maximum restraint, to refrain from violence, and to avoid all forms of provocations. And in this, all the leaders have a responsibility, have a role to play. The latest events, as we have seen them, underline yet again the need to restore the political horizon and to open the path towards the relaunch of the peace process as soon as possible between the Israelis and Palestinians. And to this end, we are exercising all our efforts and activities, as I said, both with Palestinians and Israelis and with the international partners.
Thank you. Nabil, you have a question on the same issue?
Actually, no, it's a different issue. I have a question on Lebanon.
I see no further questions, on the issue raised by Nawad, so go ahead.
All right. So my question is on the elections, the expected elections in Lebanon. I think your delegation, the European monitors, has arrived. The delegation, it's now maybe deployed, I think, in Lebanon. And we've seen some reports, mainly from southern Lebanon, of course, the stronghold region of Hezbollah. It's about intimidation, preventing some candidates from campaigning and doing their activities. Have you received any reports about that? And do you have any message to the Lebanese parties on the elections? Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you, Nabil. Of course, the European Union is very much interested in seeing these elections being organized and conducted in a proper way, based on the established standards, both according to Lebanese laws and international standards. That's why we actually agreed to send the electoral observation mission by the European Union to Lebanon, based on the agreement with the Lebanese authorities. This is the same what we did also during previous elections in 2018. And the electoral observer mission will, after the elections, will report on both on the voting as such, but also on the pre-electoral phase. And about everything that was going on. So based on what is going on right now, and then based what will happen during the voting day, and then immediately after the voting, the electoral observation mission will submit a report with recommendations about things that need to be dealt with in preparation for the next elections. So we have people on the ground. We are looking forward to seeing a proper and free and fair vote, of course, in Lebanon, because this is the opportunity for the Lebanese people to make their voice heard and to make their decisions about who will be representing them in the parliament. And there are no preliminary reports by the observation mission before the vote. So immediately after the vote, there is a preliminary report being published about the voting, and then there is a complete report, usually a few weeks or a few months afterwards. So if you want to see the assessment of the electoral mission, you will have to wait for that period after the vote.
Thank you. I see no further questions on this. Any further questions on foreign affairs for Peter? That is not the case. Thank you. I open the floor to other issues. Mindaugas.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Eric, for the floor. Mindaugas Laukagalis from Lithuanian National Radio and Television. I have a question on EU digital COVID certificates, because now I think most of EU member states has suspended COVID restrictions and no longer require the certificate upon entering or inside the country. So what does the Commission think about the future of this project as a whole? Are you planning to put an end date to it? Because initially I think it was created for a limited period of time, then it was extended, because many countries are not using it anymore. So what the future of this project? Thank you.
Thank you, Mindaugas, for this question, and I give the floor to Christian.
Thank you, Mindaugas, for the question. First of all, let me say that we believe that the European Digital COVID Certificate is really a success story of the EU. It has greatly facilitated safe travel for citizens. It has been key to support Europe's hard-hit tourism industry. So far, more than 1.7 billion certificates have been issued, and we have also set a global standard by it. By now, we have over 60 countries and territories across 5 continents being plugged in to the system. You're right that many member states are no longer requiring this for travel. This is, of course, also related to the epidemiological situation, and let me also remind that we have always been clear that the certificate should not be a precondition to travel, but it should be there to facilitate safe travel. So this is, of course, perfectly fine from our side. Having said that, you will remember that we have proposed to prolong the regulation for another year. It would normally come to an end at the end of June. We have proposed to prolong it one more time, simply because we do not know how the epidemiological situation will develop over the next months. In particular, in autumn, we have seen this before, that cases can also pick up again, new variants could emerge. And in any case, it is good and important to stay prepared and to have this very useful tool available. It is also being used still nationally in some places, which is also a possibility for member states. So I think this is where we stand at the moment. The certificate remains in place, but of course, as we have also always said, once it is no longer needed, we will be very happy to abolish it, but we are not at this stage yet.
Thank you very much. I see only one further hand raised, so we go to you, Paola.
Thank you, Eric. I think my question is for Tim. It relates to the ruble payment system for gas deliveries.
We have already answered. All those questions, Paola. We have nothing that we can add to what was said here yesterday in the press room on this. So I invite you to go back and look at what we just answered on this question. Any other issues for us today? That is not the case, so thank you very much and see you tomorrow.